Hey guys. Okay, so we are going to start reading chapter 27. Um, let's get into it. 4 hours later. Okay, let's just do like a little recap. So all the girls in Holi are off to Lanzarote, and they meet this girl Cindy at the airport, who is really crazy about them. She saw the documentary and she thinks that they are actresses, and she's an actor herself, so she really wanted to get some advice. And Denise was like really sad because Holi and Sharon were being really saintly and grown up women and were like, we would just want to read our books and not go crazy in the bars and stuff. And Denise was like, oh God, I want to go to the bars and do all those crazy things. And So she gets stuck with Cindy on the airplane next to her in this plane on the seat right next to her. And Sharon and Sharon and Cooley are like, oh well, because earlier Sharon had said that you'd find a friend for you to play with, and now Sharon and Cooley are like, well, you got your friend. And Cindy is next to Denise, and Denise is very much like annoyed because she's stuck with her now. So let's see, maybe we'll get to meet the Cindy character more in the next chapter because she is also supposedly staying in the hotel in which the girls are staying. Let's get into it. 4 hours later, the plane glided over the sea and landed at Lanzarote Airport. Everyone cheered and applauded, and no one on the plane was more relieved than Denise. See, I told you. I loved that comment that Sharon made. You know, you got your friend to play with. It was so funny. Oh, I have the biggest headache, she complained to the girls as they made their way to the luggage reclaim. Bloody girl just talks and talks and talks. She massaged her temples and closed her eyes, relieved at the peace. Sharon and Holly spotted Cindy and her crew making their way over to them and dashed off into the crowd, leaving Denise standing alone with her eyes closed. Just never ends. They beat their way through the rabble, so they had a good view of the luggage. Everybody thought it would be a great idea to stand right next to the conveyor belt and lean forward so that nobody beside could see what was coming. They stood there for almost a half an hour before the conveyor belt even started moving, and further half an hour later they were still standing there waiting for their bag, while the majority of the crowd had headed outside to their homes. You bitches, Denise said angrily, approaching them, dragging her suitcase behind her. You still waiting for your bags? No, I just find it strangely comforting standing here and watching the same leftover bags going around and around and around. Why don't you go ahead to the porch and I'll just stay here and continue enjoying myself, Sharon said. Well, I hope they lost your case, Denise snapped. Or even better, I hope your bag bursts out open and all your big knickers and bras are spread all over the conveyor belt for everyone to see. Tony looked at Denise with amusement. You feel better now? Not until I have a cigarette, she replied, but she still managed to smile. Oh, there's my bag, Sharon said happily and swung it off the conveyor belt, managing to whack Polly in the shins. Ow! Sorry, but must save clothes. If they lost my clothes, I am going to sue them, Polly said angrily. By now, everyone had left and they were the only ones still inside. Why am I always the last person waiting for my bag? She asked her friend. Murphy's Law, Sharon explained. Ah, there it is. She grabbed the suitcase and once again whacked it against Holly's already sore shins. Ow, 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 Holly yelled, rubbing her legs. Would you at least swing the bloody bag the other way? Sorry, Sharon looked apologetic. I only swung one way, darling. I only swing one way, darling. The three of them headed off to meet their holiday rep. Stop, Gary. Get off me. They heard a voice screeching as they rounded a corner. They followed the sound and spotted a young woman dressed in a red holiday rep uniform being attacked by a young man also dressed in a holiday rep uniform. The girl approached her and she straightened herself up. Kennedy, McCarthy, and Hennessy, she said in a thick London accent. The girls nodded. Hi, I'm Victoria, and I'm your holiday rep for the next week. She plastered a smile on her face. So follow me. and I'll show you to the coach. She winked cheekily at Gary and led the girls outside. It was 2 o'clock in the morning, and yet a warm breeze greeted them as they stepped in outside. Polly smiled at the girls. Now they were really on holiday. When they stepped on the coach every day, everybody cheered, and Holly silently cursed them all, hoping this wasn't going to be a cheesy "let's all make friends" holiday. Woohoo! Cindy sang over to them. She was standing up and waving over at them. I kept you all a seat back here. Denise sighed loudly and Holly's shoulder, and the girls trudged down to the back seat of the bus. Holly was fortunate enough to sit next to the window where she could ignore the rest of them. With luck, Cindy would understand that she wanted to be left alone. The major hint being the fact that Holly had ignored her since the moment they reached Costa Palma Palace, since the moment she had tottered over to their table. 45 minutes later, they reached Costa Palma Palace, and the excitement once again returned to Holly's stomach. There was a long driveway in, and tall palm trees lined the center of the drive. A large fountain was lit up with blue lights outside the main entrance. And to her annoyance, everybody on the bus cheered once again when they pulled up outside. The girls were booked into a studio apartment that was a nice seat size, containing one bedroom with twin beds, a small kitchen and living area with a sofa bed, a bathroom, and a balcony. Polly stepped on the balcony and looked out to the sea. Although it was too dark to see anything, Polly could hear the water gently lapping up against the sand. She closed her eyes and listened. Cigarette, cigarette, must have cigarette. Denise joined her, ripping the cigarette packet open and inhaling deeply. Ah, that's much better. I no longer have the desire to kill people. Polly laughed. She was looking forward to spending her time with her friends. Paul, do you mind if I sleep on the sofa bed? That way I can keep the door open and sleep. Only if you keep the door open, Denise, Sharon yelled from outside. I'm not waking up in the morning to the stink of smoke. Thanks, Denise said happily. At 9 o'clock that morning, Polly was woken up to the sound of Sharon's stirring. Sharon whispered to her she was going down to the pool to save them some sunbeds. 15 minutes later, she returned to the apartment. The Germans have nicked all the sunbeds, she said grumpily. I'll be down on the beach if you want me. Polly sleepily mumbled a response and fell back asleep again. At 10 o'clock, Denise jumped on her bed and jumped on in jumped on her bed on her in bed. Okay. At 10 o'clock, Denise jumped on her in bed and they decided to get up and join Sharon at the beach. The sand was hot and they had to keep moving so as not to burn their soles off their feet. As proud as Holly had been about her tan back in Ireland, it was obvious they had just appeared on the island. They were the whitest people there. They spotted Sharon sitting under the shade of an umbrella, reading her book. Oh, this is so beautiful, isn't it? Denise smiled, looking around. Heaven, Sharon agreed. Polly gazed about, hoping Jerry had come to the same heaven. Nope, no sign of him. All around her, there were couples massaging sunscreen onto each other's bodies, couples walking hand in hand along the beach, couples playing beach tennis, and directly in front of her sunbed, a couple snuggled up together sunbathing. But Hody didn't have time to be depressed, as Denise had stepped out of her sundress and was hopping around on the hot sand in nothing but a skimpy leopard skin thong, demanding attention. Will one of you put sunscreen on me? Sharon put her book down and stared at her over the rim of her reading glasses. I'll do it, but you can put the cream on your tits and bum yourself. Damn, Denise choked. Don't worry about it. I'll go ask someone else then. She sat at the end of Sharon's sunbed while she applied the cream. You know what, Sharon? What? You'll get an awful tan line if you keep that sarong on. Sharon looked down at herself and pulled the little skirt further down her legs. What tan? I never get a tan. Denise, didn't you know that the color blue was the new brown? Holy and Denise laughed. As much as Sharon tried to tan over the years, she just ended up getting sunburned, and then it would be. She had finally given up trying for a tan and accepted the fact that her skin was meant to be pale. Besides, I look like such a blob these days. I wouldn't want to scare everyone off. Cody looked at her friend, annoyed at her for calling herself a blob. She had put a little bit of weight on, but was by no means fat. Why don't you go up to the swimming pool then and scare all those Germans away? Denise joked. Yeah, girls, we really need to get up earlier tomorrow to get a place by the pool. The beach gets boring after a while, Polly suggested. Don't worry, we will get the Germans, joked Sharon. The girls relaxed by the beach for the rest of the day, occasionally dipping themselves into the sea to cool down. They ate lunch at the beach bar and generally had a lazy day, just as they had planned. Polly gradually felt all the stress and tension working its way out of her muscles, and for a few hours she felt free. That night, they successfully managed to avoid the Barbie brigade and they enjoyed dinner in one of the many restaurants that lined the busy street, not far from the apartment complex. I can't believe it's 10 o'clock and we are heading back to the apartment already, Denise said, staring longingly at the huge choice of bars around them. People overflowed from the bars onto the streets, music vibrating from every building, mixing together to form an unusual eclectic sound. Polly could almost feel the ground pulsing beneath her. Conversation between them stopped as they took in the sights, sounds, and smells around them. There was loud laughter, clinking glasses, and singing coming from every direction. Neon lights flashed and buzzed, each bar battling for custom. On the street, bar owners fought hard against each other to convince passers-by to enter, handing out leaflets, free drinks, and concessions. Tanned young bodies hung out in big groups around the outdoor tables and strolled confidently by them on the street. The smell of coconut sun cream rich in the air. Looking at the average age of the clientele, Polly felt old. Well, we can go to a bar for a few drinks if you want, she said uncertainly, watching the younger ones dancing around on the street. Denise stopped walking and assessed the bars. Oh, really beautiful. A very attractive man stopped and flashed his pearly whites at Denise. He had an English accent. Are you coming in here with me? Denise stared at the young man for a while, lost in thought. Sharon and Bodhi smirked at each other, knowing that Denise wouldn't be going to bed early after all. In fact, Denise may not go to bed at all tonight, knowing her. Finally, Denise snapped out of her trance and straightened herself up. No, thank you. I have a boyfriend and I love him, she announced proudly. Come on, girls, she said to Holly and Sharon and walked off in the direction of the apartment. Two girls remained on the street, mouths open in shock. They couldn't quite believe it. They had to run to her, catch up with her. What are you two gawking at? Denise smiled. You, Sharon said, still shocked. Who are you and what have you done with my man eating friend? Okay, Denise held her hands up in the air and grinned. Maybe being single isn't all it's cracked up to be. Polly lowered her eyes and kicked a stone along the path as they made their way back to the resort. It sure wasn't. Well, good for you, Denise, Sharon said happily, wrapping her arms around Denise's waist and giving her a little squeeze. A silence fell over between them, and Holly listened as the music faded away slowly, leaving only a beat of the bass in the distance. That street made me feel so old, Sharon said suddenly. Me too, Denise's eyes widened. Since when did people start going out so young? Sharon began to laugh. Denise, the people aren't getting younger. We are getting old, I'm afraid. This is sad. Denise thought about that for a while. Well, it's not like we are getting old for God's sake. I mean, it's not exactly time for us to hang out hang up our dancing shoes, and grab our walking stick. We could stay out all night if we wanted to. We just are tired. We have had a long day. Oh God, I do sound old. Denise rambled on to herself as Sharon was too busy watching Holly. Head down, still kicking a stone along the path. Holly, are you okay? You haven't said a word in a while. Yeah, I was just thinking, Holly said quietly, keeping her head down. Thinking about what? Sharon asked softly. Holly's head shot up. Jerry. She looked at the girls. I'm thinking about Jerry. Let's go down to the beach, Denise suggested, and they slipped out of their shoes and followed their feet to sink into the cooling sand. The sky was clear black, and a million little stars twinkled down on them, as if someone had thrown glitter up into a massive black net. The full moon rested itself low over the horizon, reflecting its beam and showing where the sea met the sky. The girls sat in its path along the shore, the musical water gently lapped before them, calming them, relaxing them. The air was warm, but a slight breeze brushed past Polly, causing her hair to tickle her skin. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and filled her lungs with fresh air. That's why he brought you here, you know, Sharon said, watching her friend relaxing. Polly's eyes remained closed, and she smiled. You don't talk about him enough, Polly, Denise said casually, making designs with her finger in the sand. Polly slowly opened her eyes. Her voice was quiet, but warm and sleepy. I know. Denise looked up from drawing circles in the sand. Why not? Polly paused for a while and looked out to the black sea. I don't know how to talk about him. Polly paused again. I don't know how whether to say Jerry was or Jerry is. I don't know whether to be sad or happy when I talk about him to other people. It's like if I'm happy when I talk about him, certain people judge and expect me to be crying my eyes out. When I'm upset when talking about him, it makes people feel uncomfortable. She stared out to the sparkling black sea, and her voice was quieter when she spoke again. I can't tease about him in a conversation like I used to because it feels wrong. I can't talk about things he told me in confidence because I don't want to give his secrets away because they're his secrets. I just don't quite know how to remember him in conversation. It doesn't mean I don't remember him up here. She tapped her temples. The three girls continued to sit cross-legged on the soft sand. Me and John talk about Jerry all the time. Sharon looked at Holly with glittering eyes. We talk about the times he made us laugh, which was a lot. We even talk about the times we fought, things we loved about him, things he did that really annoyed us. Holly raised her eyebrows. Sharon continued. Because to us, that's just how Jerry was. He wasn't all nice. We remember all of him, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There was a long silence. Denise was the first one to speak. I wish my Tom had known Jerry. Her voice trembled a little. Polly looked at her in surprise. Jerry was my friend too, Denise said, tears picking in her eyes. And Tom doesn't even know him at all. So I try to tell him all things about Jerry all the time, just so he knows that not long ago, one of the nicest men on this earth was my friend. And I think everyone should have known him. Her lip wobbled and she bit down on it hard. But I can't believe that someone I now love so much, who knows everything else about me, doesn't know a friend who I loved for 10 years. A tear ran down Holly's cheek, and she reached out to hug her friend. Well then, Denise, we'll just have to keep telling Tom about him, won't we? They didn't bother meeting up with their holiday rep the next morning, as they had no intention of going on any tours or taking part in any silly sports tournaments. Instead, they got up early and took part in the sunbed dance, running around trying to throw their towels on the sunbeds to reserve their possessions for the day. Unfortunately, they still didn't manage to get up early enough. Don't these bloody Germans ever sleep? Sharon gave out. Finally, after Sharon had sneakily thrown a few towels away from some unattended beds, the girls managed to get three beds together. Just as Holly found herself nodding off, she heard piercing screams and a crowd ran by her. For some reason, Gary, the holiday wreck the girls had seen at the airport, thought it would be a really funny idea to dress in drag, and he chased around the swimming pool by Victoria. Everyone around the pool cheered them on as the girls rolled their eyes. Eventually, Victoria caught Gary, and they both managed to fall on top of each other into the swimming pool. Everyone applauded. Minutes later, as Holly was taking a quiet swim, a woman announced into a microphone attached to her head that she was going to begin aqua aerobics in the pool in 5 minutes. Victoria and Gary, helped by the Barbie brigade, ran round all the sunbeds, drying everyone up and forcing them to take part. Ah, would you ever Polly heard Sharon screaming as someone tried to drag her into the pool. Polly was soon forced out of the pool by what looked like an approaching herd of hippopotami who were about to die in further much needed aqua aerobics session. Oh god, that's fat shaming, but uh, they sat through an incredibly annoying half-hour session of aerobics with the instructor yelling out the movements into the headpiece. When it was finally over, they announced, sometimes I think it was necessary. Okay. When it was finally over, they announced a water polo tournament was about to take place, so the girls immediately jumped up and headed over to the beach for some peace and quiet. You ever hear from Jerry's parents, Ruby? Sharon asked as they lounged on their lilos, yeah, lilos, whatever, in the sea. Yeah, they send me postcards every few weeks telling me where they are and how they're getting on. So they're still on that cruise? Yeah. Do you miss them? To be honest, their son's gone and they have no grandchildren. So I don't really think they feel we have any connection anymore. That's bullshit, Cody. You were married to their son, and that makes you their daughter in law. That's a very strong connection. Oh, I don't know, she sighed. I just don't think that's enough for them. They're a bit backward, aren't they? Yeah, very. They hated me and Jerry, living in sin, as they said. Couldn't wait for us to get married. And then they were even worse when we did. They couldn't understand why I couldn't change my name. Yeah, I remember that, Sharon laughed. His mum gave me an earful at the wedding. She said it was the woman's duty to change her name as a sign of respect to her husband. Imagine that, the cheek of her. Polly laughed. Oh well, you're better off without them being around anyway, Sharon assured her. Hello, girls, Denise floated out to meet them. They Hey, where have you been? Holly asked. Oh, I was just chatting to some bloke from Miami. Really nice guy. Miami? That's where Daniel went on holiday. Holly replied, lightly running her fingers through the clear blue water. Sharon mused. Nice guy, Daniel, isn't he? Yeah, he's a really nice guy. Holly agreed. Very easy to talk to. It was a long chapter, my god. Uh, hmm, it's not, it's over. Tom was telling me he's really been through the wars recently, Denise said, turning to lie on her back. Sharon's ears pricked up at the sound of gossip. Why is that? Oh, he was engaged to be married to some chick, and it turns out she was sleeping with someone else. That's why he moved to Dublin and bought the pub to get away from her. I know it's awful, isn't it? Cody said sadly. Where did he live before? Sharon asked. Galway. He used to run a pub there, Cody explained. Oh, Sharon said, surprised. He doesn't have a Galway accent. Well, he grew up in Dublin and joined the army, and then he moved to Galway, where his family owned a pub. Then he met Laura. They were together for 7 years, were engaged to be married. But she cheated on him, so they broke up, and he moved back to Dublin and bought Hogan's. Cody caught her breath. Don't you know much about him, do you? Denise teased. Well, if you and Tom had paid the slightest bit of attention to us the other night in the pub, then maybe I wouldn't know so much about him. Polly rolled her eyes at Sharon. Honestly, Sharon, they invite us and Daniel out and then they ignore us both. She pretended to be insulted. Denise sighed loudly. God, I really miss Tom. Did you tell the guy from Miami that? Sharon laughed. No, I was just chatting to him, Denise said defensively. To be honest, no one else interests me. It's really weird. It's like I can't even see any other men. I don't even notice them. And he and has been apparently surrounded by hundreds of half naked men. I think that's saying a lot. I think they call it love, Denise. Sharon smiled. Love. Well, whatever it is, I've never felt like this before. It's a nice feeling, Holly said, more to herself. They lay in silence for a while, lost in their own thoughts, allowing the gentle motion of the waves to soothe them. Holy shit! Denise suddenly yelled, causing the other two to jump. Well, why would they love to jump? Look how far out we are. Oh, this is nice. Cody sat up immediately and looked around. They were out so far from the shore that everybody on the beach looked like little ants. Oh shit, panicked Sharon. As soon as Sharon panicked, Polly knew they were in trouble. Start swimming quick, Denise yelled, and they lay on their stomachs and started splashing around with all their might. After a few minutes of tirelessly going as it they gave up, out of breath. To their horror, they were even further out than they had been when they started. It was no use. The tide was moving out too quickly and the waves were just too strong. Oh, that was a cliffhanger. I can't wait to read the next chapter. I know they're safe, but I just want to know. I forgot what really happened. Next chapter is not that. It's 10 pages long. We'll read it some other time. Thank you for listening. Bye bye.